One of the hardest things to do on nylon string guitar, and one of the things that most people want to do the most, is to play really fast picado. Now picado is index and middle rest strokes. And when we have a lot of notes on one string, it's easier, on the right hand at least, to play fast. But once we have to cross strings, even if you play with a pick, it's a super challenge on the guitar when we quickly have to go from one string to the next. So what I'm going to do in this lesson is teach you how to play the entire song, A, B, and C sections, the melody all the way through. And we're going to see all kinds of instances of things that are going to help take your picado to the next level, like string crossing, string skipping, where we have to go not just to the next string, but go over a string. We're going to have tons of weird position shifting for the left hand, and this is really going to take your technique to the next level and also get you playing one of the most iconic Brazilian choro songs of all time. So we're going to learn the melody here, but when it comes to the chords, there's tons of ways that we can play the chords. We are in duple meter here. You're going to see it traditionally written in 2/4 time, a lot of this Brazilian stuff, or really so much South American music. I like to think of it in 4/4 time as an American, so that's how I'm going to be writing it, and that's how you're going to see it on the screen. And that means that we're going to be traveling pretty fast here at 210 beats per minute. At least that's what I was doing at the beginning, but we'll play it slower, obviously, as we learn it. Now there's tons of ways that we can play the rhythm, but because we're in 4/4 time, we can do anything in 4/4 time, really. So what I was doing at the beginning was really just a rumba rhythm. A choro rhythm, though, could be considered a flipped upside down bossa nova. A lot of ways that we can do that. Check out my video on how to play the choro rhythm, or at least one way to play it, to give you some more ideas about what you can do there. But before we get into the melody, and since I'm talking about the rhythm, let's look at the chords. I really think that knowing the chords of a song first really helps you memorize a song, provided that you know the shapes that we're going to see here. And I'll be pointing out some theory stuff and a lot of these shapes that we're going to see, and you're going to see them in many other songs. Anytime that you can put something in a mental context, it's going to help you for tons of other songs that you play, not just the one you're working on now. So we are in the key of A minor in the A section. Then for the B section, we'll travel to the parallel major of A major. And for the C section, we go to the relative major of C major. So that's just a classic thing. You see that in a lot of these choro songs and tango, you see that very thing, but really in so many different classic genres of music. We have 3 sections, A, B, and C, and just to keep it cohesive, the composer is going to play around with relative minor, relative major, and parallel major. So we're in the key of A minor. We have an A minor chord, that's our 1 chord. Then we're going to go to E7, that's the 5, then we're back to A minor, to the 4 chord D minor. These are all obvious chords, the 1, 4, 5, those are the ones. Now we have A minor as the 1, which we already saw. Now we have the 5 of the 5, B7. When I was first learning, I would see a weird chord like that and be like, what is that doing in there? But so think about where B7 wants to go. It wants to go to E, and E is the 5. So this just gives us an extra sense of drama getting into the 5. So we have B7, a bunch of ways to play it, E7, and then we're back. So the whole progression of the A section is A minor, E7, back to A minor, D minor, A minor, B7, E7. And that's the middle of the A section, so that takes us back to A minor, right in the middle. Same thing, E7, stays a little longer on the E7 to the 1, then we have our 4 chord to the 1, and then the 5, back to the 1. Okay, that's what's happening there. So when we do the B section and the C section, I'll talk about the chords then, or before we learn the melody. So we're about to do the melody right now. So at the beginning, I played this at 210 beats per minute. But you might be thinking, well, you didn't really play it that blazing fast. Well, I mean, like I was saying before, at the very beginning there, when you have a bunch of notes on the same string, it's easier to play fast. So when you're playing a scale. Now we are going to see a scale, a very cool one, in this song. But what's going to make you better at picado is doing the string skipping stuff that you're going to see coming right up. So one thing that I used to do, check this out, where we have our 4-finger scale that I'm always going on about. One thing you could do, though, this is what I used to do a lot. This is great for your pinky too. I would go index and pinky, then skip a string, then come back to the string that you skipped, skip a string. So look what's happening here in my right hand. So you have to reach over the string here, and that is super tricky. We always need to be throwing a monkey wrench into our technique. Like if you get comfortable with something, it's just like going to the gym. Now it's time to up the ante a little bit, and that's what's going to make you better. So I like to give the analogy of swinging 2 bats in the on-deck circle. That makes the bats feel heavier. So anytime we can make the bat feel heavier, then when we play the normal stuff, the stuff that we normally play, this is a little bit anomalous. It's so arpeggio based, but a lot of the stuff that we do in Spanish guitar, most of the time is more scalar. So like I said, this is gonna make you way better. Now check out the video of Paco de Lucia playing this song. There's kind of a rumba vibe for that one as well. Old black and white video. And at the end, he just goes nuts and double times it and just playing it so fast. So that's your challenge. So like, can you memorize this whole melody and can you play it really fast? Now we're about to dive right into the melody, but I do want to mention that I've listened to a million versions of the song, and there's the typical, or I guess standard form of A, B, A, C, A, or some people might argue about that. If you Google that, it would say the choro form is A, B, whatever, and then that can change. But if you listen to a bunch of versions of this, there seems to be no agreement whatsoever on when to play what. So I'm going to go A, B, C, but sometimes we'll hear A and then C. I think Paco de Lucia does that in the version that I'm talking about. Just before recording this video, I listened to a bunch more, and there's just like, there's no rhyme or reason to it. So I'm going to play the A section twice, then we're going to go to the B section twice, we'll go back to the A section, and then we're going to do the C section, and then finally the A section again, and that'll be the end of it. Now you don't have to do this, but this is the intro that you sometimes hear at the very beginning of this song. We're starting on E. And then we start in with the A section melody. Okay, if you somehow ended up watching this video and you don't know what picado is, we're going to play index and middle rest strokes. And a rest stroke is we're banging against the next string, and that really gives us this sense of aggressive power and volume. All right, now we know already that the first chord is A minor, so I'm playing an E note here with my middle finger on the 9th fret of the 3rd string. And what I'm visualizing is this guy right here. I know that it's an A minor chord, so I mean ideally we should be able to see, it's easier said than done, but we should be able to see the chord that we're playing at any given moment. It would be a great goal for us all to have. So I can see that here, and that helps me, even though there's a lot of chromaticism in this melody, that just helps me wrap my brain around the melody and memorize it more quickly and know it for longer. Okay, so we're going to play E, then it goes down to D sharp, back to E, and then F, so we have this little... Very cool. Now, if you know the song Pika Pika, I have a whole tutorial video on that, and it starts the exact same way. Although that's a waltz, right? Okay, we're taking the 5th of the chord, or of the key even, because we're in A minor, and we're doing this little chromatic thing where we go underneath it, a lower neighbor, let's call it, and then upper neighbor. F is in the key, D sharp is not, but that's kind of like the Hungarian minor scale, or the Gypsy minor scale, you could say. Landing on the root of that chord, again, I'm visualizing that A minor chord like this. G sharp there on the 9th fret. Sure enough, that's exactly when the E chord comes in, and E has a G sharp in the chord, so it's all by design. Now here's where it gets really cool. This is such a great part, and I would really encourage you to practice this a quintillion times. There's our string skipping, and we're even using an open string. So I'm going to play, it's an E7 chord, and I'm singing the arpeggio. 10th fret, 7th fret, 9th fret, open string, and then, so that was the first string, right? Then I'm jumping down here to this chromatic little phrase, 7, 6, 5, landing on a C note, which is in the A minor chord. Now we're going to see an instance or two in this song where we can do this slip finger picado thing. We always want to alternate whenever we can, because if you don't alternate, it's like running a race and hopping on one leg. We really want to keep our momentum going by doing that constant exchange. But every once in a while, it's just going to make more sense to slip over the string like that, and we'll see that coming up. But here, don't do it. I'm going index, middle, index, middle, index, middle, index. Now we're over here on the B string now, the 2nd string, and I'm playing 10, 9, 8, and we're about to play D minor. So I'm imagining this, what we could call the E minor form of D minor. Here's the G minor form. It's all about arpeggios. So we have Notice the fingering I did here. I'm in the 8th position, okay? And in a perfect world, we would just play, if we're in the 8th position, your first finger would be on the 8th fret, next finger would be on the 9th, and so on. But here, because there's so much wildness going on, we're gonna go and then pivot around like this so we can cram these fingers in. Now, we're not trying to play it like a chord because we don't want them to ring out, actually. It'll sound worse if we let them ring out, but we're doing rest strokes, so we're gonna kill it probably anyway without thinking about it, but let them go as you get to the next string. Just relax the fingers away like this. There's our A minor chord, just a straight up triad. That's the D minor form. Now here, see how I'm using the same finger? There's going to be a lot of that, and there's just no way around it in this song unless you did some other crazy fingering. The problem with stringed instruments, and the guitar especially, is that there's so many ways to finger almost anything. So that's good and bad. You should always be on the lookout for an easier way to do something, but not at the expense of, you know, the musicality of it or whatever. But here, after my, you know, years of playing this melody, it just occurs to me that this makes more sense, even though it doesn't seem like it should. First finger. Okay, we're coming from here. Stretching way out here to the 11th fret. We could have done this, but then that would take us out of position for what is about to happen. So I've thought about this. I think these fingerings are great. Now here we have the B7 chord. Imagine the E form of B. It's a B7. We have our root on the 9th fret, our 3rd on the 8th fret, 5th, and here's our flat 7. That's what makes it a dominant 7th chord. And that G sharp is part of the E7 chord. So going back to this. So if you notice right there, I did more of the string skipping thing. We had to go from here, the first string all the way, and I'm trying to alternate as much as I can. So I'm playing the middle finger there and went all the way over here. So a lot of these big jumps here are so good for your technique because it's so weird. Okay, that's the first half of the A section, and then we go back to, this is the second half, but this is really the melody that we already know. Now here, instead of that B7 chord, it's E7, so we're gonna go. So we have a little triad here again. I suppose you also could play it this way, which kind of makes sense because we're going to use our pinky here as a very soon. But I've tried it that way, and for some reason my fingers just prefer this. Position shift. And these, again, now that was a scale run. That was just the A minor scale starting on E. And I can see the scale shape there. We're kind of halfway between, if we were in the relative major key of C major, we could say the E form and the D form. Right in the smack dab in the middle of those two shapes. And that is the entire melody of the A section. This technique of picado is such an awesome technique. Almost every melody that you ever hear in Spanish guitar is using this technique. And you can find the entire lead sheet to everything that we're doing here, plus tons of other really cool phrases and exercises and play-along videos for picado in my Picado Technique Collection. Check it out below. The Tico-Tico B section. I know I'm not saying that right, and in fact, you know, the entire phrase there, I'm not even going to attempt to say that. It might not be that hard. I've heard it called Chico-Chico before. I don't know if that's right. You can correct me in the comments if you wish. And now for this B section, we are switching to the parallel major of A major. So we're in the key of A minor. A minor is our 1 chord and E7 is our 5, like we talked about. In the parallel major, A major is the 1. And notice I'm playing it in the flamenco way. That's going to come back to haunt us in a second here. And then E7 is still the 5. Right? And that's going to be, by and large, the chords here, but not entirely. So this whole song, I keep saying, is all about developing our picado technique. And in the B section, we are going to see a really great ascending and descending scale that I think is very cool. But we're going to start out with arpeggios in the sense of playing them like we do in classical guitar. Arpeggios, when you say arpeggio technique for nylon string players, we're kind of thinking of this kind of thing, where we hold a static chord, and then on our right hand, we are arpeggiating string by string. Very different technique-wise than what we were just doing. Right, when we're doing arpeggios this way, we are playing the note like a scale. So be careful when you look for arpeggio things for guitar. If we're talking about Spanish guitar, you might not find the thing you're looking for. For arpeggios for soloing is this kind of thing that we're doing in this video. But classical guitar right hand technique is more this kind of thing, which we're about to do right now. Okay, so this is the B section. Now, I'm going to show you in a minute how we can add some bass notes to it, make it sound more full like this. Right now, we're just going to concentrate on just what the notes are for the melody. I'm going to be playing A, like I was mentioning, like this. This is the flamenco A. Put your middle finger on C sharp. That's the second fret of the second string. And just smush this down, even though for the moment we're not going to play the D string. And with my right hand, I'm going index, middle, ring. Notice that I had them all planted here. And the melody is really going to be kind of a slow melody, which is, you know, up until now, the melody has been pretty crazy. But because we have these two strings in between, the real melody, like the meta melody, is going. But underneath we have all these arpeggios, so we're going. Now we're going to E7, we'll go. I like to use my pinky here instead, because in a second I'll show you how to hold the whole chord. So this is kind of a worse fingering probably for you. Now up here we have, you might recognize that. It's like a D7 sus4, but up here. But because we want to add some stuff possibly later, and because there's another note coming up here on the second fret, let's do it this way with what appear to be our worst fingers, right? That's why. Now we're back to A major, so we can play the flamenco A here. Play it however you want, but the reason that this is important, I think, here, or the reason I like it, is because for this F sharp, I'm using my ring finger, whereas if we played A the normal way, the common way, then we'd have to cram our pinky in here, and we'd have all four fingers down. That might be a little bit too much crammage, so I like to do it this way. Now here, the chord goes to F sharp 7. F sharp dominant 7, which is the 5 of B minor, which is a 2. So the 5 of the 2 there. But we're going to play it Picado style now, so we're done with that kind of classical guitar arpeggio thing, and we're going. That's a B minor chord. So there's so many little tasty nuggets in the song, and this is one of them. Totally repeatable, something you should really work on a million times. That's that string crossing thing that is so difficult and so important, or really improves your technique so much. Middle finger, index, pull it off, and then middle finger. This is a great little test. If you start with your index finger, then we go here to middle, pull it off, and then index, and now you'll start with your middle finger. So if we truly alternate, we're going to be playing the first string with a different finger each time. It's only 2 times. See, index, middle. Then we have, that's easy enough. And then we go to this really long scale. Let me just backtrack and show you how we could put the bass notes into that. So when we did this, we're holding that full chord, A major. And let's go like this. With your thumb, just play that bass note. And the next time, or whenever you can in the measure, if you wanted to play another bass note, just play the next string. Nothing's happening on that string anyway. Then we'll go to an E7. It's kind of hard to get the whole thing down here. And then your ring finger here. Then we have this again, like that. But just go ahead and bar the second fret. Except the low E string, that's 5 out of 6 strings, so that we can play the low E, and then maybe this, and even the next string. So we have 3 strings available to us in the bass if we want them. And there we go. Little hinge bar right there, so that we can keep these guys ringing out. Back to A major. For F sharp 7, let's play, you know that chord shape. You can take your ring finger off though. And then for B minor, just keep the bar and play B right there on the 5th string. Still playing Picado though. You can do a pull off here, just to make that a little more palatable. Now check out the scale. That's a really great one. So we're in the key of A major, like I said. And if we were to play an A major chord right here, where I was, we have the C shape. Right? Looks like a C chord. It's not a C chord, but it has the shape of it. That's our cage system. Kind of what I've been talking about this whole time in terms of the shape or the appearance of things. So if we were to play a major scale here whose root is on the root of this C form, we have this shape. It's a great scale shape because there's no stretching, there's no position shifting. It's really, there's so many great little chords just living in there. That's my desert island scale shape. If I had to pick one scale, it's probably that one. And the hard thing sometimes to wrap your brain around is that there's 5 ways to do everything on the guitar. We only need one, you know. The more the better, because if things are too hard one way, they might be easier another way. But if you're talking to a flautist or something about the cage system, they have no idea what you're talking about. Like an A major scale is an A major scale. Now you notice there's a little more in there than the scale I was just playing. We're going to start here on the 12th fret of the D string. Those notes are in the scale. It's going up the scale all the way to here. Now once we get here, we go chromatic. And then up to that next note is in the key. That's F sharp on the 14th fret. We could go like this and stay in that position. I like to just kind of get back to the position I was in. So there's a really quick pinky movement that has to happen. And now we're just coming back down, just a straight up scale notes landing on the root of that major scale. So that's the B section. We would play that again and then go back to the A section, or just go straight to the A, but we need to play the A again before we go to the final section, the C section. Now let's look at the C section, which is in the key of C. And like I said earlier, so many recordings kind of toggle these sections around. So if you played the C section where the B section should be, then that would be the B section, I guess. So it seems like there's definitely some fluidity here. I've heard this part played after the A section, but we're going to call it the C section for now. So we have a C chord. Now again, this is the relative major of A minor, so we have a lot of similar chords, but now C is our tone center. And then we go to the 5, G7. So in this song is just 1 5 1 5 over and over. But there's some cool stuff happening chord-wise at the end of this. So we have C major, G7, and again, this is the middle of it, G7. C to C7, so we probably know that the 4 chord is coming around. That C7 is the 5 of the 4. Now we have some fast moving chords. F, F sharp diminished 7, taking us up to this G note underneath the C chord. So that's C over G, A7, D7, these are all like cycling dominant 7th chords, G7, right, so if G7 is a 5, D7 would be the 5 of the 5, and A7 wants to go to D7, so can we call that the 5 of the 5 of the 5? Why not? You could do that all day long. You gotta land somewhere at some point, right? So okay, so this is always going to be coming from that main theme, the A section, so we landed on A. Landing on that A note there. That's going to be our transition into this. Let's go to the 7th position, and the notes are B to A flat to G, except we're going to play it this way. So stretch your ring finger right here. Reason for that is we need to get over to this, and it would feel horrible if we did this. We got enough problems in this song, right? We're playing a C major chord, just a straight up E form. It's a root position triad there. And again, with this Picado stuff, we're going from one string to the next, which is so weird. So we have a lot of chromaticism here. That F note that I'm playing is from the G chord, the G7. That's the flat 7. Then again we have this phrase, This time though, the fingering I'm using is going to be, that was the more intuitive way of doing it, right? Instead of having to stretch. But G7 is the chord. Look, we have the C form again. Or at least we had the C form A major scale here that I was talking about. Now what's happening here, the C form, it's not the C form scale, it's a C form of this chord, G7. So we have a root, third, fifth, seventh, and the melody goes. So again, so much string skipping. Gotta jump over the G string right there. Now here on the 8th fret. That's the middle of the C section. That kind of stuff there was more scalar than arpeggio so much. Now, where we had this funky, really fast-moving chord progression here, we're going to start here on C and go chromatic. So that scale is what I would call the D form major scale. We're about to play exactly that. That's what I'm seeing there, but there's a lot of chromaticism in between the dots there. Instead of doing, luckily here we can get that a half step below this note by just going here with the pinky. That alone is a great exercise. And then just play a descending C major scale. And we're back to the A section. Let's see if we can get through the whole song from start to finish. To a metronome, a lot slower, do it at 120 instead of 210. But instead of playing A, B, B, and having to repeat all those sections, let's play each section only one time. So we'll go the A section to the B section, and we got to go back to the A section to get to the C section, and then we'll finally end on the A section. So let's try it. And we have our intro as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. know that's a lot of notes to memorize. I would just work on the A section, and if you don't ever get to the B or the C section, A section is still super great. And even if you do this slowly, and it's, you know, very challenging with the string skipping and all the stuff I was talking about, you're still going to notice the difference when you play regular old scales, I promise. All of a sudden, that's going to seem so much easier to do. And if you want to continue to work on your picado, definitely check out my Picado Technique Collection. And if you check out this video right here, I'll show you 3 really great picado runs from 3 Flamenco Masters.